Hi and welcome to High on Coding. I'm your host Mohammad Azam, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can get started with ASP.NET MVC Framework using Ajax. So I have over here views, which this is a default project that I added. One of the things that I changed in this particular default project, I went to site.master and I added these two script files, which will allow me to make asynchronous requests or Ajax request. Now you don't have to download these JS files from anywhere because they're already included in your script folder by default. So here's Microsoft Ajax and here's Microsoft MVC Ajax. The URL.content method will allow me to put these files into the master file and into the master page, and it will allow me to use it from any action that I want. So it will develop that particular URL that will be consistent with the action. So I'm going to add a new folder for the views, and I'm going to call it stock. And in the controller, I have to go and add a stock controller. So I'm just going to say stock controller. Okay. In my global.asax file, I have already told the map route that my default controller name is stock and the action name is index. And if I go to my, okay, so I haven't added actually, let me go ahead and add index action. So this is my index action. And that's been added, okay? And let's go over here and say, simple Ajax demo, because we're not going to cover anything complicated in this one, in this particular screencast, but maybe later we'll do that. So the easiest way to get started with the Ajax is to create a very simple action which is going to return a datetime value. So let's go ahead and say, okay, public string get date time. This is our action. And yes, you can return a string. You can even return a void. I mean, you can say that my method, my action is not returning anything. But yes, you can say that it's going to return a string. And when you are dealing with Ajax, most of the time you will be returning a string instead of the action result or view result. So let's go ahead and return the current date and time, which is datetime.now.to long string. Okay. That was simple. That's going to return a current date and time. Let's go to index, because this is now going to consume that particular date and time. Now you are already familiar with html.actionLink, which is just going to create an anchor tag, which is HTML anchor tag, and which will allow you to trigger different actions. So if you want to do it Ajax way, there is ajax.actionLink, and you will notice that most of the parameters are almost similar to the HTML.actionLink. The first parameter is the link text, whatever link text you want it to appear. So I'm going to say, okay, I want the link text to be get date time. The next one is the action. What action will be invoked on the controller? The action is get date time. And the last one is the Ajax options. There are a couple of Ajax options that you can set. I'm just going to say Ajax options and set it over here. I'm just going to use one of the Ajax options, which is update target ID. And what this allows me to do is when I invoke the stocks controller action, the stocks controller get date time action, it's going to return me a date time. Now I need some place to put that date time and display it on the page so the viewer can actually see it. So the update target ID is used to specify an element, an HTML element that will be populated with the action result that I'm going to return. And by action result, I'm not really saying action result in the class, but it can be anything, which in our case is a simple string. So I'm going to say div date time. Now we don't really have any div called div date time. So no problem, just going to say div date time, and here we go, we're done. Okay, let let me build this application and let's go ahead and run it. Let's see what happens. By default, the stocks/index or view and action is invoked. So let's go ahead and say get date time, and you will see that it does display me the date time and the request is actually being sent. Now sometimes it is important for you to find out if the request that you're sending right now is an Ajax request or is just a normal HTTP request. So not to worry, because we do have a, so I can say over here, boolean is Ajax request, and in the request we have a extension method which is Ajax request, and that will allow me to see that if this is an Ajax request or if this is not an Ajax request. Now the question you might be that, hey, why would I ever use that? Well, you have to consider that there are users who have their JavaScript disabled, and which means that they cannot perform any kind of Ajax request. They can invoke this particular action, so you can say that, okay, is Ajax request, if it is an Ajax request, then you have to give them some sort of other features, right? Like Ajaxy features, some cool features. If it is not an Ajax request, then you're just going to display the view itself. So your page or your website would work even if the JavaScript of the user is disabled. Okay, so that will come in handy. Also, just like the, no, I don't have much time, but let me go ahead over here and show you. Just like the HTML form, HTML.begin form, we have also Ajax.begin form, and it is almost pretty much similar to HTML.begin form. The usefulness of the Ajax.begin form is that you can submit the values using the submit button, and you can say any action over here that will be fired. So I can say, okay, the action will be fired, let's say, I don't know, like register. We don't really have that option, but, and then you can say, okay, new Ajax options, you can specify that that will be a get or a post and these kind of things. So we're going to see that in our next demo, but this particular screencast was just to introduce you different options for Ajax in the ASP.NET MVC framework. Don't forget to include the files. Don't forget to include the script files, or else your request won't be asynchronous request, but a normal HTTP post request. That's it for this time. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the screencast. Thank you very much. On the last note, let me pull it up over here. On the last note, High on Coding is always looking for donations. So if you think this screencast is beneficial for you, you have learned something new in this screencast, then how about considering for a small donation? You have to realize that each screencast take about 30 to 60 minutes to record, and then additional time to decode into HD format. And if you have noticed, all these screencasts are in HD format. Apart from the time, there are monthly bandwidth usages, and there are hosting costs, which are one of the major expenses. So if you do appreciate these, how about a donation? So you can donate one time, or you can do a very low amount of monthly payments or a monthly recurring donation, $2, $5, $10. And this I will really appreciate, and the whole High on Coding staff will really appreciate your donations, and it will, you know, make us work more harder and create more screencasts. I hope you like it, and hit the subscribe button for High on Coding. Go ahead, subscribe it, and refer to your friends and colleagues. Thank you very much.